Hello everyone, and welcome to This Nintendo Life episode 1, 2, 3. That is correct. It's all sequential and in a row and in order. The next time that we'll able to be counting up from 1 is going to be on episode 1234 in the year 2150 or something.
We'll be able to do episode 321. That's
right.
One.
We'll count down. We can count down potentially. That'll probably be in another decade or so when we get to that point. But yeah, we're here on the show. It's episode 123. Bally, how you doing?
I'm doing well, MBZ. I'm post move, and it's all just settling back in.
You're out of Belgium.
Scotland.
You're back in the country. You're in Edinburgh again. It's a fun time.
Back in Edinburgh, and it feels good. The weather is the best thing ever. It is like reasonable and nice in summer, and I love it.
I wish I had that. Now that I'm in London, everything is a nightmare, and the weather is non-stop garbage, and it's just heat, and I can't even breathe. And all these Americans are like, oh, why do you complain? It's like, well, look, guys, we're not used to this shit. We don't have AC in our houses, like you guys do. It's just kind of unreasonable. So it's tough, but hey, I've got a fan pointed at me at all times whenever possible, so that's abating some of it.
I'm stocking up a bit too much on Iron Brew again. It's a bit, because I don't drink like sugary drinks almost ever, and I've just bought like an absolute huge 2-litre bottle of Iron Brew.
When was the last time you had Iron Brew?
I have it almost every time I'm back. Often.
Okay. Have you had it since they changed the recipe to take all the sugar out?
I like it. I mean, I can slightly notice the difference, but I still like it. I think that if I had one criticism of Iron Brew before, it was that it was ever so slightly too sweet. So now it just feels slightly less sweet. I think. So
now it's actually like
great.
The perfect version of Iron Brew.
Yeah, it tastes more refreshing now, I think.
Anyway, well, if you have no idea what Iron Brew is, you should get on that shit, because Iron Brew is one of the best drinks ever made by human hands. I think the stat still stands that like Coke is the best-selling drink in almost every country except for Scotland, where it's Iron Brew.
I mean, when you want to count Scotland as a country and a state, right?
Sure, exactly. Yeah, you can. Oh boy. Let's not go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's not.
We have other podcasts to discuss those things. But yes, we're here. We're talking about video games and Nintendo and all the things we've been playing and all that stuff. So, Bally, do you want to lay out the show for us today?
So, first segment, we're going to talk about what we have been playing. Second segment, we have your listener emails. And for the third segment, there's so much coming out later this year. We thought we'd do a top 10 games that we're hyped about coming out later this year. On all systems, really, and then we're going to do a top 3 as well. So much coming out in the latter half of 2018.
Yes, busy times, and it's all coming out. Like September especially is just crazy. It's a little ridiculous, so I'm going to be getting a lot of stuff and having no time to play it, but still just like staring at it and being like, I'm going to play all those games. Eventually, I'll get there. So yeah, it's going to be a good time, but we'll kick things off with video games we've been playing, and I think we're both still pretty deep in Octopath Traveller, aren't we, Bally?
Yeah, I'm at least 47 hours in now. I've only got 3 more Chapter 3s to do. I'm in the middle of Therion's Chapter 3. I'm really enjoying it still. I think the stories themselves are getting better and more interesting, which I'm enjoying a lot more.
Yeah, of the couple of Chapter 3s that I've done, they have definitely been stronger than what has come previously.
I'm not tired of the battle system yet, but I'm kind of getting to that point where I'm unlocking all of the skills, and you sort of unlock all the skills very quickly, I found, and once you've unlocked them all and you've learned all these new mechanics, it doesn't feel like the game. It feels like I've got an awful lot of game left to play. Where, unless there's something I still don't know about, once you're used to the job system and unlocking all the skills, it doesn't feel like there's much more. There's not like some final mechanic that for the last quarter of the game, for example.
No.
To my knowledge, at least. So
I definitely noticed that, because I have like 9,000 job points on Cyrus and nothing to spend it on unless I want to start a new job with him.
Yeah,
because I've maxed out Merchant and I've maxed out Scholar.
Right.
So those are, and I like that setup for him. I think that works best for him as a character. So I'm not going to switch him over to a cleric at any point unless I situationally maybe need to. And then it's useful to like dump those points into cleric. But I guess the idea is just you want to have everyone go through every job so they can be more flexible, potentially, is the idea there?
Right. So mechanically, like the battle system and the bosses, I'm still loving. I think some of the bosses have been getting more and more brutal, and I found myself having to be higher and higher levels proportionally to beat them. And so the game is getting tougher, I would argue, but I'm still really enjoying that aspect of it. Here's one thing that is really starting to grind on me. I don't know what you think about this, MZ. So this is probably my transatlantic snobbery. But I think we can agree that Octopath takes place in a very traditional fantasy setting. It's a very tropey, very traditional,
pretty classic
fantasy
all the
setting.
Tropes there.
I've got a big problem with American accents in this setting. I just think there are a lot of American accents in this game. Basically all the characters, bar about 4, I think, have American accents so far, and I just think in that setting where it's almost like this norm that's been established across all other fantasy media, traditional fantasy media, I should say.
Yeah.
It's just become this thing of having British or even European accents, and I don't know, it just kind of takes me out of the setting a bit. I'm finding the more cutscenes I'm getting into.
Why? Because you think that you like imagine them as a voice actor as opposed to the character. Because
they stand out much more in my mind as a voice actor, not
right.
A character there and then. And I don't know, maybe that's nitpicking.
I don't know. I feel like personally, just the American dialect has just been so normalized through media that I don't bat an eyelid, even if it is in a setting like this anymore.
That is definitely true, but it almost felt like the last bastion of preserving like English, British accents, European accents was traditional fantasy. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a bit of a snob.
Maybe you shouldn't play The Witcher 3 then, because there's lots of American accents in The Witcher 3.
Interesting.
I mean, that's the way that game worked, and that's also it's a Polish team doing or getting voice actors in to do American accents in a traditional fantasy world. It's a little bit.
I'm just trying to think like other fantasy-ish games I've played recently. Something like God of War. I think there are definitely American accents in there.
I mean, Kratos is,
but it feels less pronounced perhaps than a lot of these characters in Octopath. I don't know, but
and there are fewer characters in that game generally as well. Like, it's quite a tight cast.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the deities that you go up against and see in that game are, I don't know, they have the look of them that is more Nordic, but they still have a slight American accent to them. But it doesn't feel as strong, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm really loving this game so far. There are it's getting a little grindy in places, but I feel like
grindy.
I mean, I say that because I feel like I'm past the bulk of grinding, in that I think I can bring in almost any character out of the 8 into the relevant chapter that they have left to do, and I won't have to grind much more with them. So I kind of feel like I'm in the home stretch, I guess.
Sure, yeah.
And like I've got a super powerful team, and it's essentially I'm just sort of rotating types of characters into certain roles rather than actually focusing on characters themselves, perhaps. So yeah, hopefully I'll wrap it up for next time. I'm pretty positive on it generally, but I hope it's got a strong finish.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I think the thing about it having a strong finish will depend on how you like each of the individual chapters, because unless you're going to do a big final dungeon that apparently doesn't really have much of a story hook to it, it's not. I don't think it's going to be any like grand climax, because that's just not what this game has been, and it wouldn't suddenly at the end turn into that. So,
and I mean, the more I'm playing these chapters, the more I'm liking it for that, and it is something refreshing when it feels like almost every other single JRPG goes along the world-ending trope that we've talked about before. But so it is. I'm liking what it's doing. It's different. It's refreshing, and
yeah. I personally feel more burned on it than you do. I think I'm just...
And you're not as far.
Yeah, I've fallen behind. I just have less motivation to play it because I know there's so much ahead. And I don't want to get to a situation where I'm just on a boss and I'm just wasting my time in the evening just like spending half an hour on a fight and then dying, and things like that. It just feels like I'm not getting anywhere. And that's why I want to level up and make sure that everyone's at a good enough level where I can just kind of get through some chapters. I don't know if I'm even going to finish everyone's chapter 4s. Like, I have characters that I want to see the end of them. But some, like Alvin, for example, I just don't think he's a very good character mechanically for me in the way I like to play him. So
he does one good thing well, and then other than that, it's like, why are you here? Sort of thing.
Yeah. And I really like his story, but I could just as easily just go on YouTube and watch the end of his story. Like, I don't need to go through the trouble of leveling him up. And I think that is the core crux of my problem with this game, is the idea that you have to level everyone individually. There is no backbench leveling system where you can just play with 4 characters and have the other 4 level up but at a lower rate or something, you know. But they're still gaining experience and they're still like keeping pace with everyone else, because that would just cut out so much wasted time in this game, because a lot of this game is just getting yourself to the threshold where it's like, okay, I can now pass through this gate because my number is high enough. And it just feels like, and it feels also like the bosses are built so that you can't really beat them without being high numbers. Like, the thing that with other games is sometimes tactically you're kind of good enough to get past those points, but I think with Octopath it's more just a case of time. And if you are low level, the amount of damage you're doing to these bosses that eventually have like 70,000 HP is just so minuscule that either it's not worth it to do it for that long, or you're just too underpowered to even survive.
The boss battles just are generally more about survivability, and for that reason...
it's about sponginess and just
exactly.
HP.
And for that reason, your team is almost judged more on how weak your weakest character is rather than how strong your strongest character is, because even if I've got a really over-leveled Olberic dishing out tons of damage, it feels like the game is judging me more on my lowest level weak character and how little and how often they're getting wiped out.
Right, exactly. So I do really want this game to be more streamlined, and I think if they did a sequel, they could really address a lot of issues that people have had, and I think it probably will get a sequel. Like, this game has done tremendously well, just sold over 1 million copies, they announced, and that's great, because like, I really love the style and a lot of stuff about this game. I just kind of want it to be over. You know, I feel like it's a little bit outstaying its welcome, but hopefully the chapter 3s and chapter 4s are satisfying enough to where I'm going to be able to push through them.
Oh, there's some good ones. There's some good plots you're gonna see.
Cool. Great. What else have you been playing, Bally?
We also been playing a bit of Paladins, free-to-play game on the Switch. It's sort of the Overwatch clone. It's fun. I mean, when you go in there, the menu is just confusing beyond belief, and that was a massive turn-off initially.
It's like literally the most free-to-play game I've ever seen in my life. Right. There is a battle pass, there is a store where you can buy currency, there are 2 types of currency, some of it you can use either one to buy characters. It's like, my god, they really are throwing... Like, every time you end a match, you level up 3 separate things. Like, you have an account level, and a character level, and a battle pass level, and it's just like, game, slow down, please. Like, there's a lot of things happening, and you're not explaining any of them, and I don't know where to go or what to do. And for me, as someone who loves Overwatch and thinks like it's such a polished, incredibly slick game, this is the total opposite in that direction. Like, the menus are hard to navigate, the animation quality is not great, the characters are nowhere near as distinct or refined, they feel far more generic, very League of Legends-y. But that said, the game does play pretty well, and there are characters that I've really enjoyed playing as and getting to know, and I've been playing it quite a bit, actually. I've been dipping in pretty much every day and doing a few matches, and you know, the way it works is you have either a payload match where you're escorting kind of an object like an Overwatch, or you have team deathmatch, which is just getting as many kills as possible, and then you have kind of like capturing an area and holding it for as long as possible. So they're all game modes I'm familiar with and have been around for a while, and obviously Overwatch uses a lot of them too. But it's a very kind of quick jump in there and shoot some people and have a good time. The characters I've been leaning towards are Cassie, who is a crossbow character, who is the least analogous to another Overwatch character that I've played so far, because so far I could basically name you each character in Paladins that is basically a clone of a character in Overwatch. Even if every move isn't the same, sometimes like the special move will be something that's the same as another character in Overwatch's special move. And it kind of, it's very clear where the inspiration / I don't know, cloning comes from. But it's weird with video games, isn't it? Because sometimes there's this line where you can't copyright mechanics and you can't copyright
it's
specific moves. So...
I actually think that's something that might change in the future because it kind of seems over the top, right?
I don't think it can change, and I don't think it should change, because honestly, innovation sometimes comes from iteration, and I mean a lot of the time, like most of the time in video games, iteration is what builds on top of it.
Right.
You have cases where it's straight up just completely the exact same, and in that case, no, that's not right. But I think Paladins does enough to differentiate itself, even if it is very shameless about it. And I
mean, one thing it's done is come out on Switch.
Exactly, which is like Overwatch isn't out on Switch, so I have a portable one of these types of games, which is actually pretty colourful and fun and good. And I think the best thing about it is that it runs at fucking 60 frames a second on Switch, which is awesome. It feels so fluid and nice and works so well handheld, and even playing it on the TV has been great. I've been trying to adjust the sticks because I'm very used to playing this type of game with a mouse, so my aim is a little bit off sometimes, so I'm trying to get a good sensitivity with it. But I really like playing as Cassie because she has like a dodge roll that she can get away, but she's also like a long range character, and so you can pick off people in the distance pretty easily, and she does a good amount of damage with her crossbow, so I've been enjoying her. And then there's Victor, who's basically Soldier 76. He's just like a military dude with a gun, and you aim down sights and you shoot.
The COD character in the Overwatch game.
But he is really fun and actually mechanically feels great. Like shooting feels great, hitting enemies has great impact to it. It's all well polished in that sense. It's just, I think some of the other aspects are a little bit not janky, but you can tell that the level of polish and the standards that companies like Nintendo and Blizzard have for their games are just not here with Hi-Rez. They're not as high quality a game studio. They don't have the budget of those places, so they can't make something that is as crisp and clean as what we are kind of used to.
Yeah. I mean, I only played a few games with UMBZ, and I've not picked up since. Just mainly because I've been wanting to truck on in Octopath. But yeah, I thought it was. It was pretty fun to just pick up and play, and I think some of the characters were far easier to get into than others. Like I think Cassie was definitely one that was easier for me, at least, to pick up and play. Which is weird because she's more of a precision character with like crossbow. And stuff, but
so
I
don't know why.
I think what she does is quite a simplistic stand back and long range shoot sort of thing, whereas the others are very much...
don't be into the fray.
Yeah, the others are like, you have to do this,
close.
run in here, dodge to the right, do this, and also the little what's the little gremlin?
It was like a goblin in like a mech suit you were playing as. I can't remember his name.
He's super easy to just pick up and play, and he's just sort of your big, bulky, slow, tankish, powerful, really like loads of bullets per second kind of character that is just so easy to just point and shoot at a crowd of enemies and just get such a large kill streak. So that was satisfying.
I would say the major difference between this and Overwatch is it feels far less team-based. Even though you're in teams, it feels like the composition matters much less, and the idea of healers and things like that is less important, because one of the things that it does is if you are out of combat for a little while, you'll just start getting health back after, like, I don't know, 20 seconds or something.
Right.
And so that doesn't happen. You need to have a healer in Overwatch to make sure you stay alive and collect health packs and make sure that you are keeping an eye on your health. Whereas here, it feels far less like you need to work as a unit in order to win. It feels like if you're all good and you kill the other team, you'll be fine.
Right.
So having specific roles like a tank and a healer and a damage dealer isn't as big a deal, and so it feels less tactical, I guess. Feels a lot more kind of arcadey, and you don't really have to work on that stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, I think it's really cool as a game that's on my Switch where I don't have Overwatch. If Overwatch comes out on Switch, I'll probably drop Paladins, honestly, because it is kind of a second-rate citizen. But as it stands, their high res are doing well because they've beaten their competitor to that particular market.
Do you still think Overwatch is gonna come at some point?
I don't know. I think for them it's far more about making sure that they keep everything updated and in sync, because they're already doing 3 platforms and they find that quite difficult to manage at the moment, more than being able to port it over, because I think they can port it over. It's a very scalable game. It works on lower end PCs. It'd be pretty gutting if it came out and it ran at 30 FPS, because a game like that, you need it to be high frame rate for it to kind of engage you. And so I don't know. It's a hope that eventually it comes there, but if it doesn't, whatever. I guess I'll just keep playing Paladins on there instead, and see how that goes. And then, we played some Fortnite together as well.
Yeah, I mean, we played a bit individually, I think, when it came out during E3, and then we just thought, right, let's just give it a bash. And so we played Duo, where you sort of play in a 2-person team versus lots of other 2-person teams. It was just really silly fun to just get into and have a go. It was.
Here's the funniest thing about it is that Bali was so resistant to playing this game. He's like, no, I don't want to play it. He was like, do we have to? I don't want to, because we've just been playing Paladins. Like, okay, Bali, let's try some Fortnite. It's like, I don't want to do it. I'm like, no, Bali, we're gonna do it. And then after 2 matches, you're like, can we do another one? Can we do another one? And we just kept going for 4 or 5 matches in a row. And I think you finally, and I think I finally clicked with Fortnite, where when you're playing with someone else and talking on voice chat and doing it and kind of trying to win and being more invested in it, it's a much more enjoyable
to be honest,
game.
I don't think I even knew you could even play Duo, so that was just my narrow-mindedness on the whole thing.
Sure.
And Duo was just so much fun. There was an instance where we were kind of in this compound and we could see the outer ring closing in on us, and we were like, we've got to get out of here. I was like, let's go to that hill. And you were like, how do we get to the hill? And I was like, well, we could just build a structure to the hill. And you were like, I guess we could. And then we just built this crazy, stupid structure that kind of big L shape in the sky that took us over.
Yeah, because we'd put up barriers around where we were to protect ourselves.
Like MLG Pros.
And I was like, Bali, I don't have any materials left. And you're like, I have them all. And you just go ahead of me and just stop building this floating bridge across the sky as we tried to make it for this hill. Oh, it was pretty good.
And then we got taken out by a rocket launcher very
exactly.
quickly.
Some guy jumped over the horizon with a rocket launcher and just murdered us in one hit.
Yeah, but we got into this top 7 one match.
Yeah, that was good.
Pretty great. I don't know, you just end up finding yourselves in really tight spaces with a lot of enemies very fast out of nowhere, I find with that game. And I think just survivability and knowing how to be the last person standing is a lot harder than it looks, and it's really difficult to know who's coming from where and what weapons they have, etc., and what's the best weapon for which situation.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a game I have a lot more respect for now. I mean, I'm not going to get deep into it, but I think that, and then watching some professional Fortnite play, which just blew my fucking mind, has given me a respect for the mechanics of the game and how everything flows together and how the building is so integral to it and important. Because, I kind of wrote it off as they just shoved this Battle Royale mode into this game. But I think what they've done since launching that and building out the community and all the events they do and everything that surrounds it's really teaching people a lesson in terms of live game services and how to engage a community. And it's a very impressive thing. It continues to be the most popular thing in the world, which is mind-blowing to me as someone who for years on podcasts heard people talking about this random game Fortnite that Epic was making, and then eventually it came out last year and it was pretty much a dud. It was a survivalish game, and I was like, okay, well, no one's going to remember that game. It's like a fart in the wind. And then they add this mode and it becomes the biggest thing in history. It is insane. It is one of the most insane things in terms of video game stories in the entire industry.
I think it's definitely kind of going to be remembered up there like Pokemon Go and Wii Sports and these big kind of mainstream...
It's a cultural touchstone.
Cultural trends, exactly. So now we're a part of it, MBZ.
We played it.
There you go.
That counts.
Job done.
I don't know. I mean, I played it back in September of last year as well, just to try it when it had come out, and it wasn't that big then. And I was like, okay, it's okay. then. But yeah, they've done a good job.
And it is now the
supporting
1 year anniversary, of course, because that we came in on a flying bus that had a big one.
Yes, it had like birthday
candle on
cake
it,
stuff, and that was weird. Anyway, so that was Fortnite and Paladins. Some multiplayer games we did, which was cool. Like doing that. I also picked up the Megaman Legacy Collection, which was on sale because Megaman X Legacy Collection just came out, and I'll pick those up eventually as well, but you know me, I'm going to wait for a sale on those most likely. So the first Megaman Legacy Collection has Megaman 1 through 6. I have played 2 and 3 before. Those are the 2 that I've played. And so there are 4 games on this collection I've never played before, so it felt to me like a good proposition. I think it was like $8.99, and then I had £2.70 in gold coins, so I spent those, and it was like £6. So good deal, £6 for 6 games, 6 really high quality NES games. Mega Man, as I say, one of those NES series that still holds up today and is very, very playable. And I did my second run through of Mega Man 2 for the year, played it at your house when I was there in Brussels, and finished it there, and then I finished it again
now
a
you've
few
got to
days
get
ago.
a fusion run in, you know?
I do. I need to do a Metroid Fusion run. I'll probably get to that eventually. But yeah, I love Mega Man 2. It's one of the best games ever made. I've played it like 9 times now, start to finish probably. But the thing I want to talk about most in this collection is it adds a feature that is so convenient and useful, and made going through that game again the best possible experience, is a rewind button. So basically all you do is you hold down one of the shoulder buttons, and it just rewinds the last however long you've done. You can rewind it pretty far back, actually. I don't know how far back it goes, but it seems like it's almost endless. And essentially what that means is any stupid jumps you make, anytime you accidentally fall on a spike, it's just like, no, I won't wait to go back to my save state, or I won't wait to reload. I'm just going to hold down this button, and it'll rewind me to where I was. And that helped especially in the boss fight the boss fight in the room where you have to use Crashman's bombs, and there are all the blocks, and there are the stupid lasers that shoot at you, and you're trying to dodge it, and you have to use the glitch where you're pausing the pause screen so that you don't get hit by them. That one always is a pain in my ass, and so yeah, I'm glad that I was able to just rewind when I messed up, so I could just finish it in one shot instead of doing it again and again, and that just made the experience so much smoother. So I played through 2. I actually played through the first game as well, so never played Mega Man 1 before. I've watched it a couple of times, and it's definitely a far less polished, not as refined game in a lot of aspects. First of all, the controls don't feel as good. It feels a bit more slippy and slidey. Mega Man doesn't feel as good to jump or move around. I thought that was maybe a problem with the Legacy Collection in general, because some person had said on the internet that there was a bit of lag to when you moved. But as soon as I booted up Mega Man 2, I was like, no, this is perfect. This feels just like how Mega Man 2 should feel. So I think it's actually the first game that just doesn't control quite as well. Feels a little bit looser and weirder. And that game has a lot of issues in terms of a lot of the bosses are really challenging, and the last kind of gauntlet through them is very, very difficult. You don't really get energy tanks, so you can't like refill your health in the middle of a fight, so you have to maintain your health pretty regularly along the way, and picking up power-ups in order to do that. And there are also only 6 robot masters, so it different from the traditional 8 that continued after that. So there's 6 of them, and one of the bosses is the Yellow Devil, who obviously appears in Mega Man 3 as well, and is part of the Smash Brothers stage, and he goes across the stage. He's a pain in the ass. He's one of the most annoying bosses in any game. But this one is way harder because you don't have the slide. In Mega Man 3, you have a slide, which means you can go under a lot of the blocks, which are at your head level. Whereas here, you don't have that. So you have to like dodge out the way of all his things. And then he pops open for like the briefest second, shoots you, and then goes back to the other side again. And it's really fucking hard, which is why most people beat it by using a glitch, which you use Elecman's beam, and you shoot it at the eye, and you just pause buffer, so you just keep pausing, unpausing, and what happens is that every time you unpause, it creates a damage hitbox, and so he just dies as this elect beam like slowly doesn't really pass through him, but it's like going through his eyeball, and that's a way I beat a couple of bosses, actually. Is like, because they're just way too fucking difficult on their own, and you know, these are known methods that people have used over the years in order to get past these things, so I don't feel bad about doing it. And I could rewind stuff if I needed to. But yeah, Mega Man 1 is fine. It's not an amazing game. I'm glad I've played through it so that I just know. And yeah, I wouldn't recommend playing through it. But, if you want to just go through it and see how it is, it's an okay experience. It also is weird because you can really fuck yourself over if you don't go to certain stages in a certain order. Because one of the things you need to progress is in a stage that is not necessarily one you may go to first. So you have to look online, make sure you know which bosses you should take in what order, and you'll be fine. You'll figure it out. But it's tough. It's a very difficult game. And I'm glad they refined it and made Mega Man 2, which is one of the best. And then I've skipped over 3 because 3 is very hard, and I've already beaten it, and I can't be bothered to play it until maybe a little later down the line. So I've started on Mega Man 4, and I've beaten 6 of the 8 Robot Masters, and so far they've all been pretty difficult. I think after 2, what they did is they took out the difficulty selection, so they just gave you one option, which was just play the game. Whereas in 2, there's a normal and a difficult, and normal is what I usually play through, and it's way easier. Like, I find Mega Man 2 so much easier as a game than every other one that I've played, just because bosses die faster, you do more damage, things like that. The normal mode on Mega Man 2 is just a better experience, I think. And so, yeah, 4 has been challenging. I've liked all the weird bosses so far. It looks kind of cleaner and more polished, and they've added a charge beam. So now you have the jump, the slide, and now you have a charge attack, so you can charge it up and shoot it. And I keep forgetting I have that, so I think that's maybe why I'm finding it a bit more difficult. Is some bosses I'm just shooting with the pipsqueak gun and not charging it up to get a full burst, which is what I should be doing. So yeah, I just need to remember to do that. But Mega Man 4, enjoying it so far, and I'll probably finish it before next time, and then maybe start 5. We'll see.
All in time for 11 later this year.
Exactly, yeah. Be good to play that. But I don't. It's just having Mega Man on my Switch and having access to Mega Man 2 in this format is so good. It feels great to play.
Are you just completely beyond D-pad and you're just using those buttons and that?
Yeah, and it worked fine. I beat Mega Man 2 no problem. I'm doing okay. Like, I would love to have a D-pad Joy-Con, but I think I'm actually used to this setup enough at this point where I don't actually care a huge deal. And also I can play it on the TV with the D-pad on the Pro Controller. So, not really bothered by it.
I just end up using that analog stick for everything.
Oh god, playing Mega Man with an analog stick makes me literally want to be sick. It makes me want to just vomit all over outside. It's awful. Why? Like, why would anyone ever do that? But they let you. It
feels good,
so
yeah.
Anyway, before I just vomit on this show, let's just end the segment. So we'll be back after this break with some of your emails, and we'll be chatting some more. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the second segment of today's show. Second segment means it's one thing only, and we said it is time for your emails. As always, we need more in. We've had some good ones, but we need some more. So, our email address is thisnintendolife@gmail.com. That is thisnintendolife@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your emails, your questions, your comments. And of course, you can also send us in a message on our Discord server, which is linked in the description on this podcast. It's also a link to our Twitter account at TNL Podcast. Hit the link, jump in our Discord server, and send us in a question over in there. So, our first email this week is from Sanji. It's from the UK. Dear Bally and Nubbington, how much stigma is there attached to playing video games as an adult? I sometimes come into contact with the view that video games are childish and a waste of time. I think that's true to an extent, but I have played video games that are powerful, have moved me, or are just plain fun. I can think of worse ways to waste time. I feel a percentage of the population, usually an older demographic, just views gaming as a wholly negative thing, something only people living in their mother's basements do. Do you encounter this view? If so, how do you respond to it? Also, please can I have a hair update from MBZ? Cheers, Sanjeet.
We'll start with a hair update. My hair is kind of short right now. It's not blossomed. I'm not sure it's going to blossom again for a while. It's one of those things where I'm not sure I could get away with my hair being that absurd in my life again at any point. It was one of those moments of like, hey, I'm off to university and I don't have to worry about all this shit. No one's going to enforce the rules on me, so I'm just going to grow my hair for like 2 years and not cut it. And then
was it actually
happened.
2 years?
I think it was 2 years. Yeah.
Oh my god.
And
Impressive.
Yeah, my hair went obscenely long and stupid. But it's honestly so much better now because I can like breathe and my head can breathe.
It's hot. It's horrible having long hair when it's
We
hot.
went to Spain like at the height of summer when my hair was that long, and it was unbearable. I couldn't stand it. It was just the fucking worst. It gives me sympathy for a lot of women who have long hair because it's just like, Jesus, this is... I can't... Why would you ever do this to yourself? It's just really... it feels bad. So I always like it when I get my hair cut. I don't like going for a haircut. It's actually one of my least favourite things in the fucking world is going for a haircut. But once it's done, it's just like you can feel the release and it's like the wind in your hair. And also... my hair is weird in the sense that if I put headphones on, it tends to leave like a dent in the middle of my hair.
Spongy.
So when I've had my hair cut, it's nice because I don't have that anymore. It doesn't removes the need for any dent in my hair. But anyway,
Perfect.
There you go. On to the actual question.
Yeah,
I guess.
Stigma, video games, playing them. We've sort of touched on this a bit in the past, but maybe it's good to check in again. I think there's still a lot of stigma generally, and I think there's a set number of ways that are normalized that people engage with video games, but if you overstep that mark, it is maybe considered a bit childish or a waste of time or over the top. And it's what's interesting is that it's constantly changing. So like a game like Fortnite can completely reinvent the stereotypes of who plays games and why they play them, and almost overnight, like it's in the Fortnite. But it's insane how much it's even changed since I guess we were maybe younger and cared more about the stigma than perhaps we do now.
Yeah, Fortnite is just a very weird phenomenon because it comes up literally everywhere. I was on a training the other day and they started talking about Fortnite just randomly. But obviously they also...
Are these people sort of your age or younger?
No, well, so the person who was leading it was much older, and I think she was the one who brought it up, and she's like, what is this Fortnite thing anyway? I keep hearing about it, I don't know what it is or whatever. And yet in the same breath, they're all chatting about how much they love Love Island, and how that is a thing that they are all obsessed with. And you look at these two things, and one of them is socially acceptable, and the other one is not. But you could call one way less good for you, Like, I think the obsession with shows like Love Island and the trash TV that people watch is just as much a waste of time as video games, if not way fucking more. So it feels like this weird hypocrisy that goes on where, kids are denigrated by their parents for playing video games, and yet they will be perfectly happy to sit down and watch television for 4 hours in the evening.
Exactly.
And yet somehow the video game is worse, even though it's actively engaging your brain and you are an active participant in it, and you're not just passively taking it in. Which is weird.
I think that a lot of games like sports games, driving games, and perhaps shooters,
Yes.
multiplayer games where groups of predominantly men aged maybe 20s to 30s, that has definitely become far more socially acceptable in the last, I don't know, decade, with games like FIFA, especially in Europe and the UK. But it's more seen that that's something you do that's fun when you're with another person or groups of people.
Yes, so it's
But
like a group activity as opposed to the solo person.
Yeah, but then the
room.
idea that you'd play something solo for an extended period of time, it's a bit like, oh, well, that's a bit much. Why would you do something that you're meant to do with other people by yourself?
Right,
And,
yes.
But I think in a more wider context, and you talk about the value of playing video games, like how important is it versus watching a film, reading a book, watching Love Island,
right.
And I think that the trend in how video games are viewed is improving. Like, I think that over the next 20, 30 years, reading a book, watching a film will almost be the same as playing a video game. It's certainly, like, I don't think it's there yet amongst the majority, but there's certainly amongst plenty of people who see that as perfectly normal and would view it as normal and commonplace as reading a book and watching a film.
Right, and I mean, you look at the younger demographic today, and all they talk about is a game like Fortnite or Pokemon Go or a zeitgeist thing that is happening, and you don't ask someone, you know, if they are someone who plays games. You just assume when, you know, they're that age that, yeah, they're on their iPad playing something or they're on their phone playing something, which, you know, this is another conversation that we could get into. Obviously, we are very negative on that form of video games, but it's undeniable that something like Fortnite has broken through because of its wide reach in that sense. Like, a lot of kids won't have PS4s, you know, and they will have access to a tablet, so they do have a way of engaging in that conversation, which is inevitably going to happen at their playground and at school. So,
I mean, what age do you think in the UK, for example, do you think playing Fortnite as a young person or a kid becomes more of like a social stigma, like where someone might be more self-conscious, perhaps?
Yeah, I would say probably as you age through your teens, like 15, 16 is probably where it gets like that. But it's also to do with your friend group and whether they're still into it, right? I was literally just talking to my cousin because he's just been over, and I was asking him, you know, about Battle Pass and Fortnite. He is 12, going to be 13 probably next year, and he was talking to me and he was like, yeah, I think I'm going to get the Battle Pass for Season 6, but only if everyone's still playing it. And that was the thing. If no one in his friend circle is still interested in the game, or it's not a big deal anymore, then he's going to move on to the next thing, right? Like, he's going to play something else because it's about the zeitgeist, it's about what everyone else is doing, it's what your friends are playing, and it's not about sticking with something just because you want to keep sticking with it, you know? And that, I think that's much more prevalent when you're a kid because peer pressure is just a way bigger thing. And at this point in our lives, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to play this niche JRPG even if most people play Call of Duty because I care about this and I don't give a fuck about that other thing.
I mean,
you know?
My Switch has been an absolute godsend alongside my like noise cancelling headphones. Like, I've been travelling back and forth between the UK and Brussels so much in the last few months, and like going to like Mallorca and Spain and stuff, and I just do not care that I am sitting in the middle of a plane playing my Switch. And,
yeah, I know.
Like,
I think you were saying that like Caroline was a bit like thinking that it's like, oh no, why are you taking it out in front of other people?
She was originally skeptical, but now she just does it as much as me.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, converted now.
It's like, would I rather sit there staring into the back of the head of the person in front of me, like most people tend to do on these flights, which blows my mind, or would I rather continue a few hours into Octopath, which I'm really enjoying? It's like, it's just stupid. I'm wasting my time if I don't play a bit of Octopath. It feels like I don't know. I definitely felt the stigma of video games at school, but I can't say I felt it. I don't think I've even felt it at all really at university. I had a group of friends who all played a lot of games, both single player and multiplayer, owned a range of consoles. And I just sort of had a really good time. I brought my Wii U came out in that period as well. Played a lot of multiplayer games, played a lot of single player games, and yeah, I've played more games since as the podcast has sort of grown. and it's just the stigma. I appreciate that school is just really difficult. Like up until the age of 18, roughly, I just think it's super difficult to try and be open, truly open about who you are and what you enjoy doing, and not feeling the peer pressure. But I just found university and life beyond 18 far better for that. So that's my
100%.
own experience. But yeah, I just think we are the trendsetters. The more open you're about video games, the more it'll help others who want to be open about video games. And then that'll help shift everything. So yeah.
And, there are some people who are just not ever going to get it, and they're always going to be set in their way.
I don't think my parents will ever understand.
No, they won't.
The true joy of a good video game.
Yeah, and I think it's, to some extent it is a generational gap, and to some extent it is just ignorance. It's, Sanjit writes like he's played games that have moved him that are powerful, and I think a lot of people don't know that things like Gone Home exist. That even things like what was the game that you played?
Brothers.
Brothers, but like with the watchtowers.
Not in the Woods. Watchtower.
No. I mean, these are all good examples. Firewatch. Yes. Like narrative games like that are pushing the boundaries and they're doing so much more. They don't get talked about like Fortnite does. And then you have, politics comes into it and it's like, oh, the guns, they're shooting people, so that means that they're going to grow up to be murderers, and all this bullshit. So it becomes a whirlwind of nonsense that, works against games generally, but we'll get there.
The trends are all in the right direction. They're not going in the wrong direction, and that's something positive. So
yeah definitely.
Keep going.
Yeah, so there you go.
Our next email is from Robert C. Hi, MBZ and Bally. I've been dealing with an interesting problem recently, and I wanted to see if either of you have had a similar experience. First of all, I love video games, and I love to play video games, but lately I'm not getting the itch to play anything in my free time. I have a full-time job and tend to have a maximum of 2 hours of free time in the evenings. I'm typically occupied with one thing or another on weekends. I find myself thinking about a game that I want to play during the day, but then when I get home, I'll just relax and cool off after my workday. For example, I bought Octopath Traveller on release day after playing and loving the first demo, but I haven't even started it yet. A phrase I've seen that I think fits the situation is gaming fatigue. Perhaps that's just part of being an adult, but I'm curious if either of you have had this problem before. If so, do you have any strategies to psych yourselves up to play a game that you know you will inevitably enjoy? Thank you again for all you do for the podcast. From Robert.
Okay. I think this is something that I have had to deal with more recently as I've started to not have time to just play.
The JRPGs are out the window.
Well, I don't know. I'm a good 35 hours into Octopath. You're a good 45 hours in. Yeah. So, there is time. Time exists there for us to play these long games. It's just how you use it, isn't it? And I think that's the ultimate question is having the motivation to do so. And I'll say, like, often when I come home, I'm very much in a YouTube mode where I'm like, oh, Giant Bomb just put out, this new series on Mass Effect. I'm going to watch Alex and Vinny play Mass Effect.
It's definitely a different gear. Playing games versus watching a YouTube video is definitely two gears. That
it is, because you have to be far more engaged with the game, right? You have to. Well, I think the Switch has made it easier, obviously, to just pick it up and go. But for me, it is all about the process of like turning it on, making sure the game's there, loading it up. Like there's some downtime in between. And then you have to be engaged with it. You have to be actively doing something. And when you've just had a long day and you just want to come home and not do anything, sometimes it just feels like I don't feel in the mood for it. And a lot of the time I feel like when I know I have a big stretch of time ahead of me, that's when I feel the most comfortable sitting down and playing a game, because I don't have to worry about anything. I don't have to think about when I'm going to bed or when I'm leaving in the morning for work, because I leave later in the morning. So I sometimes have time to play stuff in the morning, but I generally don't, just because with games it's far less easy to stop and put it down when you need to go and do something. So a lot of times, like, I'm watching YouTube stuff in the morning, but then I come home and I'm like, oh, I'm just so tired, I just want to watch YouTube again. So it just becomes a bit more of a passive experience. But it depends. One of the things that I've actually liked about playing Octopath is having the opportunity in the evenings to just grind, which doesn't require me to engage with the story. It doesn't make me need to concentrate super hard, and I can have a podcast or YouTube video on in the background while I'm doing it. So it's a kind of low energy way of still playing a game and still, moving on with something.
Yeah, I've definitely. I've just moved from Brussels, so I currently have a bit more time here. I'm in Edinburgh now, have a bit more time than I did there. I'll get busy again shortly, hopefully, but while in Brussels, I'd have sometimes very busy days, and sometimes I'd feel that pressure when I'm playing a longer game that I want to finish and talk about on the show. I'd be like, right, I really need to beat this, especially sometimes for backlog clubs and stuff like that. When trying to beat Final Fantasy VI or Earthbound in time and things. I've often felt the pressure, and that can be bad for gaming fatigue and things. But I agree. I find in the evenings, I need that space. I'll often try and create space where I've got my hour where it's just a video game, and then my hour where it's just watching a bit of Netflix or YouTube show or something. And I'll try and make sure I have both, because one, like we said, like your brain is generally quite engaged for most video games most of the time, and likewise for watching Netflix or YouTube channel or something, it's more casual. And I definitely try to do both. Because I often feel if I go to bed and I got home at, say, I had a very short walk from work in Brussels, so it was just a case of getting home and I could chill. I could almost play an hour of games there and then and finish an hour and a half of games, and then it would be 7 p.m. and then I could have an evening. So I had the long evenings where I could factor in lots of things. So the idea of having only 2 hours free time, as Robert C says, in an evening, I would personally just kind of maybe fit one for gaming and then one for YouTube and TV and other stuff. I often felt like when I went to bed, having not played any games, I'd be like, I had time this evening. I really wish I'd gone into a bit of this game or that game. But there's been times where we play a lot of video games and I have gotten massive fatigue. I remember in particular at the start of 2017, I think it was, I'd played a lot of games and I'd half finished a lot of games, and it
was like Fire Emblem Conquest that was half finished, and Pokemon Sun that you started and you're like, no, and you just kind of gave up on them all.
A lot of
Majora's Mask
games
as well on 3DS.
Yeah, that is a hard game to get into, Majora's Mask, and I still haven't beaten it. I need to get back to it, but I got really fatigued, and the best solution we had, or to get out of that, was to play a short, really good game. In this case, it was Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. I was at your house, MZ. We played it in space of about 2-3 hours, or however long it takes. And I honestly think just step away from the video games, and then when you're feeling good, come back in, play a short video game that you know is really good. And I think that just really spurred me on to be like, that was really great. I really want to play some other video games now. And it is a balance. I often find just short bursts during the week, and then a Friday night I might plan, right, tomorrow morning I'm really gonna go for it on game X, because I know that I've got all this time, and weekends generally I find are great times to dive in.
That's what I've been doing mainly, because I'm similar to Robert in that, so I start quite late in the morning, which means that I come home and basically have around 2 hours in the evening, maybe 3 at a push, depending on how much I want sleep, which is usually a lot, because I like sleep and sleep is good.
Oh, sleep is good.
So I've definitely found it a struggle to get into playing things in the evening, but I think that's why I've liked having multiplayer games, and why I've been playing some more Paladins, and Overwatch is always a constant in my life now. I'm always going to play some Overwatch in the week at some point, just because I can do a couple of games and it only takes 25 minutes, and that's my fill, and I feel satisfied from doing that, and I enjoyed it, and it feels like, yes, I've played something and it felt good and I enjoyed it, and I think that's why multiplayer games are so popular, is because a lot of people come home and just want to play something but don't want to commit, and multiplayer games are amazing for not committing, because they are short usually, and you can do a couple of them and feel good about it, and then you can just be done and don't have to worry about, saving at a checkpoint or getting to a certain point in the story or something along those lines. It's less kind of effort on your part, so I think it works for a lot of people. It's why Fortnite's so popular. It's why all these free-to-play online games are just so ridiculously popular. I think it just fits people's lifestyles more easily in those ways.
But the best thing I've ever done to sort of structure my gaming habits was do a podcast with NBZ.
Yes, exactly.
It's like I'm all about playing a game, getting to credits, having a view of the main game, and more often than not doing extra stuff, and just sort of structuring, mixing up long games and short games, we've talked about on the show before, is just really important to keeping my own sanity when I'm playing so many games and what to talk about constantly on the show. So yeah, like us dipping into Paladins and a bit of Fortnite the other day, and it's just like, that's a nice little change up. That's just so different to a game like Octopath, and it's important to kind of step away from the big long game that you're playing and try something different. And especially in a podcast setting, it's nice to talk about something a bit different. So I think variety and stepping away from video games entirely. And when you are properly fatigued, coming back with that short, really good game are probably my top tips.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's hard to describe like why you don't want to pick up a game and play a game. So I totally understand like where he's coming from. And it's just like, you really want to play something, but it's like, but it's so much effort to sit down and play it. Maybe I'll just, be a lazy person, just sit down and just absorb something that is passive.
I often have it. The weirdest time I often have it is when a brand new game that's been hyped up for a really long time comes out. And I get it. And then the whole internet is talking about it. And I'm like, this is weird. I should be playing this game, but I'm not. And then I play a couple of hours, and often the starter games can be a bit slower. So I'm like, that was good. I'm not into it yet. That was good. And then you put it to the side. You might do a few things that day, and then the day goes on, and then everyone else is still talking about it online. And then you realize you're only 2 hours into this game when the whole world is like racing through it, and you're like, what was all the hype about? And then eventually, the coming days, I often will play an hour a day or so, I don't know, and then get into it and be like, this is actually a really good game. And that's happened with quite a few big releases. Even games like Breath of the Wild, I think that happened with. Like, I was quite slow into it, but then eventually I go through periods of playing a lot of it at once, and then eventually, getting to, 120 hours or whatever it was.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to see how things will go when all the big games come out later this year, because obviously I'm going to have...
Yeah, we got like long games coming out.
Yeah, and I'm going to have less time, obviously, but like when God of War came out earlier this year, I was like, just sat down and just went straight whole hog. I think I find it way easier when a big game comes out to be just like, yes, I'm just going to start this and just dive into it.
You definitely dive harder.
With like Octopath, I played like, 25 hours the first weekend, so I was very much just like, I'm doing this. I'm just non-stop going for it for a really long time. And I did that with Persona 5. I think I played 40 hours of Persona 5 in like 3 days.
Yeah. Most JRPGs I found ebb and flow massively in terms of interest in playing them and where the story is, whereas Octopath, it's a lot of the same kind of thing throughout almost the entire game, at least as what I've seen. So playing the start of the game versus the middle of the game versus the end of the game doesn't feel massively different, and my interest in playing it doesn't really ebb and flow as much as something else, for example. Like it kind of it feels more consistent, which kind of makes it easier to play in a way.
Yeah, to some degree. It feels also because the Switch has just made engaging with games a lot easier.
Like, I'm playing a bit of Metroid Prime 3. I mean, my Wii U isn't with me now, but before when it was, the process of like turning on the Wii U, turning on the TV, making sure the Wiimote is synced up, get your sense bar in the right place, make sure you've got a seat that kind of sits in line with the sense. It's like,
exactly. Oh my god, my most frustrating thing about trying to play Wii games in this setup I have right now is the sensor bar is like right there on the table, and if I'm sitting normally with the Wii remote is like pointing at the table, and so it's underneath the sensor bar, and it's just like I have to hold my hands up, which is so much effort and like energy that I just don't have to do.
Yeah, like the Wii, hasn't aged massively well. And like, I kind of,
I think the controls are good. It's just the situation you need to be in for a lot of them is just frustrating and
it's
annoying.
a big setup, yeah. And I could imagine that with something like VR, where you're kind of like, right,
Sure,
this is
yeah.
my VR time. I need to clear the space, to get the headset on, make sure it's charged, do all
Yeah,
these
VR
things.
is even more so for like
Yeah.
setting time to do it, because it's like, God, there's so many steps to get into this process.
But yeah,
and to even start
handhelds,
it.
the Switch, it's so fast in. It's an absolute joy, especially with a longer game like Octopath, where you can play it in long bursts and short bursts, and in my view, it feels equally easy to get in and play a bit.
Definitely.
But yeah, Robert, that's a great question. Thank you very much. That's going to wrap up the email segment for this show. But like I said at the top of the segment, our email address is thisnintendolife@gmail.com. That is thisnintendolife@gmail.com. Please send in more emails. We would really appreciate it. And now we shall be moving on to the third segment, where we're going to talk about some of the games coming out later this year.
Alright everyone, welcome back to the final part of today's show, and we thought it would be fun to take a look at what video games are coming out in the next kind of part of this year. I guess it's not next 6 months anymore, is it? Because August to that, is it 6 months? I guess. No, not really.
August, September, October, November. Oh, yeah. It's less than 5 months.
It's less than 5 months,
Yeah.
exactly. So
The end of the year.
Right, so there are a lot of video games coming out. Some on Nintendo platforms. The funny thing is that Nintendo doesn't. This year overall hasn't been the strongest for them. There have been some standout games. There are going to be some standout games come the end of the year. But yeah, it's been a lot of Wii U ports. It's been a lot of kind of support from third parties and big things like Fortnite coming to the Switch and stuff like that to help its momentum. But they haven't had a lot of stuff. But there's a lot of stuff coming from other places, things that we are interested in. And Bally, now you have a PS4, you can play some of these things as well. So we're just going to go down a list and kind of make a top 10. And then just maybe choose 3 games that we are most excited about overall. So yeah, we're going to talk about them. Bally, do you want to kick us off?
Sure.
What we
I think this game just came out. There's been
Yeah.
a few reviews and things and people playing it about, and that's WarioWare Gold on the 3DS.
Yeah.
So when this was first announced, it looked very, very much like there was very little original content, but the more that I've seen of it, there's actually quite a bit, and we should probably play this at some point.
Definitely. I love WarioWare, and it's been way too long since we've had one. And the thing with this one is that it's taking all the good WarioWare games, at least I think the best WarioWare games, putting all the best minigames in there, and then adding some new fun things like a Mario Sunshine minigame, and stuff that is cribbed even from Game & Wario. There's the Gamer game in there, which was like you were 9-volt, like sleeping under the bed, and you had to put your Game Boy away when your mum came into the room, which I thought was always a fun idea. There was a Smash Brothers stage based on it in Wii U, where you had to like hide behind the things on the desk in order for the mum who comes into the room not to like electrify you and stuff like that. So that is something that I'm very interested in and playing that game, because there's just a weird wackiness to WarioWare. Recently, actually, the Giant Bomb East crew did a playthrough of the GameCube WarioWare game, and I forgot how much fun that game was.
Yeah.
Like, the
That multiplayer
balancing on
is so
turtle
good.
game, all the different modes that they had set up there to make it so it was not just about playing the micro games, but also about like a meta goal that you were going for. And like after you died, like you turn into a turtle and you could like nip at the feet of the other.
It's so good.
turtles.
I played a lot of that at uni with friends. I think.
Oh, really?
My friends at uni were kind of like, "What is this game?" I was
It
like,
is such a
"Trust me."
Japanese weird fucking game.
I said you play hundreds of mini games. They're really short and it's great fun. And we do like party mode and stuff. And they're like, "Okay." There's like people who are really into. I don't know. We've done a bit of Mario Party and a bit of like Mario Kart and I don't know what else we played. A bit of COD and all that. So this was kind of we should try WarioWare party games, and it was an absolute blast. Yeah,
it's so good. So it's definitely one that I want to be checking out at some point, but we shall see.
Does it make the top 10? I'm going to say no for now.
Yeah, I'm going to say no for now, because it is kind of a re-release to some degree. It is like the Rhythm Heaven Mega Mix version of WarioWare at the moment. So yeah. Okay. Next game is coming out next week, which is Dead Cells. It's a game that's been in early access for a long, long time and is finally getting a full, proper release. It's also coming out on Switch next week. I think it has a 20% discount in the store right now, which is pretty cool. But it's a Metroid-style game that's also a roguelike. And you know me, then you know that I don't really like roguelikes unless they have a good progression system. So games like Rogue Legacy, I liked Flint Hook quite a bit last year. So this one apparently does that, and apparently is just very well designed and thought out. There's another game that's coming out. It's the kind of like the Metroidvania era at the moment, because there's like 4 of them coming out in the space of a month. But Chasm is a game that is about to come out as well, that is a similar idea in that, but it's different in that it's not run-based. In Chasm, you basically you randomly generate the entire Metroidvania world. So the map with the grids and stuff is permanent, and you just have a set map when you start the game, and it never changes. But it's all randomly generated as you play through it. Whereas Dead Cells is it creates maps, and you die, and then you start over again. And it feels like it's very well designed, and the combat looks very fluid. Some really nice platforming in there that seems like something that'd be right up my alley. So I am interested in checking it out. I don't know if I'm going to get it straight away. Right. I think that maybe takes it off the top 10 immediately. If I'm not buying it straight away, then it's probably not worth putting on the list.
And is it going to be a premium price on Switch, do you know? Or do you think
no, well, so if you get it now, it's $17.99, which is 20% off what it usually would be. I think it's like 22 or 23 normally. But it would be 18 quid if you got it right now. Again, UK prices are all fucking weird. Like, going to the store and it's like £26.32 for this game. It's like, why? Why is it that exact price? That makes no sense. But with region free being a thing, I think prices have just gone a bit wacko and weird in our part of the world. So that's how it works. But yeah, it seems cool. I want to play it at some point. And I keep hearing people rave about it. So, no, that's what I was saying. Is if I'm not going to get it day one necessarily, then I'm not sure I can put it on.
Fair enough.
Top 10.
Let's relegate that as well.
Next up, we have the game that you are very excited for. Overcooked 2 is coming out very soon. Actually, I think it's next week, isn't it?
Yeah, this is like what I plan to play. Obviously, I still got Octopath on the go. This is what I plan to play with Caroline most of August. Is Overcooked 2. We had such a blast with the first game. We got 3 stars on every single mission, including DLC content that's in the Switch version. And I can't emphasize how excited we are for this game. I think we're going to blast through the whole thing in like a few days, to be honest.
Probably will, yeah.
It's quite hard to not play it for us like that. So yeah, I was super impressed by what I saw from it at E3. Like, there's now sushi in the game. Like,
okay.
That's awesome. And
what does sushi change? Does that mean that you're having to assemble like the nigiri rice and then do the fish on top?
Right. I think you need to have rice that you cook and then roll and then add salmon and.
What about
fish.
Seaweed as well? Is there makis where you have to roll the seaweed?
I saw something, but there's numerous other dishes that they're adding and different things that happen to the kitchens. And there's like these stages where the kitchen changes midway. Hard to explain, but like. You're in a hot air balloon, and the hot air balloon crashes into another kitchen, and it like crashes into a sushi restaurant. So you then have to start making sushi mid game. Anyway, it looks zany and crazy, and it has online MEZ. So
it does, yeah.
If I'm hot on it, maybe you could pick it up and we could play a few. But yeah,
I mean, you're going to be hot on it. You don't need to say that.
I'm going to be hot on it, but if when I'm hot on it, you can be like, oh, Bally's hot on it. I better pick it up. So yeah, definitely my top 10 for me. I think it would make a joint top 10. I don't know. What do you think? Shall we leave it in for now?
I think you are so positive on Overcooked 2 that I think we can put it in for now. We'll put it there for now. Next we have Okami HD that is coming to the Switch. And this is a game that you and I we should have played it probably years and years ago, but it's one of those funny games that our good friend, buddy, old pal, Ali T, who we talk about all the time on the podcast, it's one of his favourite games of all time. He's played it like 6 times through.
6 times?
I don't know, something stupid like that. But on Wii, when it came out after it was ported from PS2, he played it so much, and he thinks it is one of the best games that he's ever played, it probably is on par with a lot of Zelda games for him. So I think it's one of those that we both need to play at some point. Kicked around the idea of having it as a backlog club game at some point. So we can see, but it is quite a long game too. So we may do that next year. But yeah, it is a re-release. It's a remake. And it's also already come out on other platforms. So that makes it a little harder for me. To put on the top 10.
I don't know. I think there's other things coming out that we maybe won't get at day one, so maybe leave it out of top 10.
All right, we'll leave it out. Next one on the list is a game that I feel like we've been sleeping on because it's out.
Came out of nowhere.
Well, it got announced at the start of this year, and I was excited for it then, but now somehow it's already almost here. It's Guacamelee 2. Guacamelee, one of those games that got into our top 50 games pretty highly and has climbed up our ranks there, and I think you are a huge fan of it as well.
I believe it's in the top 10. I think it's around number 8 or something.
Yeah, and I haven't played the original in such a long time that it's hard for me to remember a lot of stuff about it now, but I just remember loving it so much when I first played it and having a horrible time with that one boss that somehow you beat easily.
Because they made it easier.
Because they made it easier. But I really want to play this. And the most unfortunate thing is it's not coming out day one on Switch. It's on PS4 and it's on PC, but it's not on Switch day one. But regardless, I played the original Guacamelee on PS3 the day it came out, after Beyond and Greg and stuff had talked about it like crazy because they were like praising it to high heaven, and it was during the time when I was playing stuff on PS3 quite a bit, so I got it then. I think I'm going to get it on PS4 again day one. How are you feeling about Guacamelee 2, Bally? I think Overcooked is your August game, but do you think you're going to grab Guacamelee 2?
I'd like to play it before the end of the year. Definitely get it involved in those Game of the Year discussions. I played Guacamelee a lot more recently than you, and maybe like a couple of years ago. I was super hot on it as well. Like you were sort of advocating it so much, MBZ, and I was like,
it was the first like real game where I was like, for fuck's sake, Bally, play Guacamelee, and you're like, no, I have my list. I'm going to play this, then this, then this, and then I will finally get to that.
I think we've reached a better balance on my list and when I do and don't play backlog.
Exactly,
games. So,
yeah,
I think
definitely.
We've gotten a little better where I can just sort of put my mind to something like, MBZ wants me to play this. I'll just play it, and I'll beat it, and then I'll move on with my life.
Exactly. It's a lot better now.
So I'm hyped for it. I think it should be in our top 10 or certainly close to. And let's leave it there for now.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for that game.
Okay, Guacamelee 2 is going to stay on the list. Next one is one that I'm very excited for. It's Dragon Quest XI. Oh, Bally. I've been playing all the Dragon Quest games. I want to beat all of them before this comes out. Not feasible, I know, because it comes out in like a month. I've got 4 more. 4 more. So I've beaten Dragon Quest 1, 2, 7, 8, 9. So yeah, that's 5 games. And 10 is an MMO, so obviously I'll never play that because it's Japan exclusive and it's never coming out here.
Weird. Oh.
But yeah, 4, 5, and 6. 3, 4, 5, and 6 are the ones I haven't finished. But I don't think I necessarily need to do that. That's just more of a me thing where I'm just like, I need to finish all the things before the new one comes out. But everything I've heard about it sounds fantastic. It looks gorgeous. It just has this incredible style to it.
I really like that art style. It's
Toriyama who is behind Dragon Ball. So it's very similar. artistic look. Chrono Trigger has the same look. I guess you could tell from like the box art because you have the DS copy of Chrono Trigger. But yeah, Toriyama did the artwork for Dragon Quest series, and he did it for Dragon Ball Z. And yeah, it looks sharp. Like if you've seen any trailers of this game, you know that it's this amazingly animated, beautiful, like big, bold 3D Dragon Quest game. And the last one was more pared down because it was on DS, and so they didn't have kind of the resources to do it so well. So yeah, this one is huge, and I'm very excited for it.
Yeah, I need to play one at some point. I'm gonna sit back on this. There's just a bit too much else that I'm keen to play this year.
Yeah, and also it is slated to come out on Switch at some point.
That's cool.
So it would probably be a much better portable game, honestly, in the end, as a big RPG. So probably next year.
Well, let's leave it in the list.
Yeah, it should be on the list for me.
Maybe.
Okay.
Here's the big one.
Yeah, it's Spider-Man for PS4.
This was the reason I bought a PS4. And
that's crazy to
basically,
me.
God of War was just a reason to get a PS4 earlier. But Spider-Man was like, God, I need to play that game. One of the best feelings I've had in video games was Spider-Man 2. And for what everyone who's played demos of this game, they are just loving that system. I think it looks gorgeous. I love the character Spider-Man as well. Like I have seen all the Spider-Man films. Some are better than others, as we probably discussed elsewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, this game I think is looking fantastic. I love what they're doing with the villains that they've picked, and there's some interesting things there. And I'm excited to play the story. I'm excited to explore that world. And this is like my September. Just devote everything to this game. Cannot wait for it. It's one of my favorite, most anticipated games. Second half of this year.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not so hot on Spider-Man.
But you love
I don't know
Spider-Man
why.
too.
Yes, I do, and I should be high on this game because like Insomniac make really good, like amazing games, and the movement mechanics are what I like in open world games. But something about it just. Maybe I haven't looked at a lot of demos and stuff.
It's been hyped for a very long time, which I never think is a healthy thing with video games.
No.
Because then by the time it comes out, the hype level is just through the roof, and it's like,
right.
Oh, actually, it's not quite as good as our hype.
I just feel like I'm a little worried about how good like the open worldness of it is going to be, because I do feel like a lot of open world games fall into the generic category when it comes to side missions and quests and things that feel like checkboxes more than anything else.
I think as long as the fight mechanics and the web slinging is good enough, if there's a few repetitive missions, which I think there's bound to be, because
there will inevitably, yeah.
I think I can probably handle that. If this is, just
I think as long as the story is really good and well told, and so some previews have come out recently about Spider-Man and some things involved, and it's got me more interested in terms of the story, for sure. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not as hot on it as you, but I think we probably have to keep it on the list because
top 10,
yeah,
right.
Then we have Shadow of the Tomb Raider, a game that I am very interested in. I'm not actually as excited about it as I think I probably should be. It feels like more of the same, which is really good. Because Tomb Raider is excellent, the reboot has been fantastic, and I think both the games are amazing. And I know Caroline had played through the first one, the definitive edition on PS4.
Yeah, she beat it. She beat it very quickly. She absolutely loved it. We're going to pick up the second one called Rise of the Tomb Raider.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to pick that up shortly. And I want to get around to this trilogy at some point. I just need a gap, and I think I'm going to try and beat my Uncharted trilogy first and then move on to this at some point.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm hyped for this. Not that I'm going to get it anytime near its release, but I did like a lot of what I saw with Caroline playing the first game, and yeah, you've enjoyed the previous two, so yeah, it's.
I feel like it's Uncharted, but a better game. Whereas Uncharted is excellent in terms of its narrative and cinematic direction and everything, but I think the mechanics and the gunplay and the kind of adaptability of how the combat works is far better in Tomb Raider, and I like the platforming.
That excites me because I even found the gunplay in Uncharted 1 really good, but that's just because as someone I'm really not used to third-person shooters at all.
Definitely.
So just give me a half-decent system and
exactly just eat it up.
Yeah, you thinking of this for day one, or you wait and see?
I mean, so here's the hard thing. Dragon Quest XI comes out on the 4th of September. Spider-Man comes out on the 7th of September. And I think Shadow of the Tomb Raider comes out on like the 16th of September. So it's like it's a tight period.
Okay.
Yeah, we can leave it off the list, I think.
It sounds like you're siding with those other 2 out of those 3 for now, but
yeah,
it can always come in if the list is short.
always come in later. We'll see.
Spyro trilogy.
Yeah, I played the original Spyro the Dragon quite a lot when I was younger. Had it on PS1, and I always preferred Spyro to Crash. I think Crash was just a more popular character overall, but Spyro was the character in the game that I vibed more with. I liked the idea that he could float across places. He was like a dragon, which I thought was cooler than a stupid orange fuzzball. And he breathed fire. That was cool. He's like charged around. It felt better, I think, as a game in terms of the movement mechanics, and I don't know, it was just like a fun world to be in. So I love those original games. And the trilogy looks like they're doing some crazy stuff to make it just snazzed up as hell. Those
comparison images between new and old look really impressive. Like the color palette, the lighting, the bloom, it looks nice, like really nice.
Yeah. This is my nostalgia trip that I want to go on.
You're going to go on it this year?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Because it is probably coming out on Switch as well, but for me, Crash Bandicoot, I'm fine playing on Switch because I'm not super jazzed about the visuals in that one. I think this one just looks so good that I'd like to have it on a higher powered platform. You know, I'd like to have it on PS4 potentially, so I'd probably get it there. But I don't know. I could go either way with it. It's interesting. Should it stay on the list?
I'm feeling
it's hard.
No. I don't know. I mean, I'm keen to play both this trilogy and the Crash trilogy at some point. Maybe on Switch, maybe on PS4. I don't know. But I don't feel overly keen on one or the other, and I'm not overly keen on one system or the other either. But yeah, it looks really good. We've already mentioned quite a few games we're going to be playing later this year. So
yeah, well, I don't know. There's always room for more.
So you want to stick it on the list for now?
I want to leave it for now. Just
leave it for now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next up is...
This is a bit questionable in my view.
Well, it's not questionable because they're selling it as a standalone thing. It's a completely new thing. It's the Xenoblade 2 Torn of the Golden Country. The DLC, which takes place 500 years before Xenoblade 2. It's all about the backstory and what happened, because they refer back to that period a lot. And the character of Adam, who you're now playing as part of your party, and they've done like a reveal of what he looks like, because they literally never reveal him in the entire Xenoblade 2. It's like you get to the end, it's like this hooded figure, literally never see his face the entire game. And then the DLC, they're just like in the trailer, like, oh, by the way, this is what this guy looks like. Just remove all the tension of the whole game, which is strange. But I am very interested in this because I devoured Xenoblade 2. I just fucking shoved it in my gullet and swallowed it whole. It was literally 70 hours in like 6 days. It was unhealthy. It was just obscene what I did last year. And I'm not going to be able to do that again probably for a while with another video game. So yeah, I'm excited to see what happens in the story. And the thing that excites me about it is it's basically starting again because it's all set in the past. Your characters and their levels are not going to matter because they don't exist in the past. So you have to start over with a new party and do all this other stuff. There's also weird DLC where you can use Shulk and Fiora as blades in Xenoblade 2. I don't know if you've seen any of that stuff, but they're there as characters. You can summon them, and it's weird. But yeah.
So you're hyped for it? You're going to buy it? You're going to
yes,
want it?
I want to play it.
Let's stick it in the list then.
All right, okay, sure. Put it on the list. So this next one I have a fiery burning passion for because I played the first one earlier this year, and it's probably now in my like top 10 games of all time. Valkyria Chronicles 4 is coming out, and my god, I want to play that game.
You still play 2 and 3?
I mean, 2 and 3 are PSP games. 2... I actually have it on Vita because I downloaded it via the store digitally. But it's more like anime, as if it wasn't anime already. But the thing is, the original Valkyria Chronicles isn't actually that anime. Like, it has a really anime art style, but in terms of its storytelling, it doesn't lean into it too hard. I think this game probably does a bit more. But the second game is like they're high school students and they're going to war or whatever. It's a bit more... It's less of a serious narrative, and I think people didn't like it as much because of that. And then 3 never actually came out here. 3 was a Japan-only PSP game. So 4 is kind of the true sequel to the first game that people have been waiting for a very long time. And it is coming out on Switch, I think, at the same time as the other platforms, which is pretty perfect. And honestly, it looks kind of identical to the original game, UI and everything. So I have no problem probably playing it on Switch because it'll probably run just fine and work just well on that platform. But yeah, I'm very excited for Valkyria Chronicles 4, so I think it should stay. I want it to stay. It deserves to stay, so I'm going to leave it on the list.
Cool.
Okay. Next, we have Dragon Ball FighterZ on Switch. I want to play that video game just because I've been getting more into Dragon Ball Z, listening to Giant Bomb's podcast, All Systems Goku. If you're not listening to All Systems Goku, what the hell are you doing? You got to listen to it. It's literally my favorite podcast.
You know, this is all going to end with me eventually watching Dragon Ball.
Probably, yeah. I mean, it's an inevitability. You got time on your hands right now watching Dragon Ball Z, Bally. Yeah, so I think that is definitely a game that I want to play, but again, it's a port from, it's already came out earlier this year, so we can leave it off the list. I think that's fine.
This list is getting full quick.
It is, I know.
There'll be some fighting later. Yeah. Right.
Megaman 11, yeah. So I just picked up the Mega Man Legacy Collection, as I kind of mentioned in the first segment, and playing through Mega Man 4 and the first game, and 11 looks really cool.
We've only seen a trailer of this, right? Or have
yeah, I mean, I haven't actually looked into gameplay, so I didn't know how good it was going to be, but from what people have said, and like Mega Man fans that I listen to have said, they're very positive on it. They say
when did
10
it's actually
really good. 10 came out on WiiWare years ago, 2000.
Just WiiWare?
Yeah, okay, so here's how it worked, Bally, is randomly Capcom decided to put out, well, I think it came out on 360 as well, and probably PS3.
Okay.
But Capcom decided they were going to make Mega Man 9, because Mega Man 8 was like a PS1 game, I think. And so Mega Man 9 they made, and Mega Man 9 is literally just like an NES game. It's basically like Shovel Knight, but it's even more kind of staying with that aesthetic. It's literally an NES game. It plays exactly the same as the classic Mega Man games and looks the exact same as well. So 9 and 10 are basically NES games made in the modern era. And I don't think other companies have really done that. Like, I imagine if Nintendo went back and were like, we're just making another Zelda game that's exactly like the NES Zelda. That'd be crazy. That's literally what Capcom did. Is they made Mega Man 9 and 10, which are NES games, essentially. Yeah, and so 11 looks much more modern and different. It has a new art style to it. It looks very cool. I think I need to see more of it and play more of it before I'm
not quite a day one yet.
It's not quite there, but I'm sure it will. I'm sure it'll rank eventually on my list. But yeah, we can leave it off.
Shall we leave it off for now then?
Yeah, we can do that. Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I feel like I still need to play Assassin's Creed Origins. The thing about Odyssey that's calling to me is I love Greek and Roman shit. I did a lot of classics, and I like that stuff quite a lot, and the setting and the era. So that's why I'm more interested in it. And I think the multiple characters, being able to play as these two different people, is interesting. More dialogue choices like The Witcher. It seems like they're leading into Witcher stuff a lot more, and it looks pretty good.
Looks cool.
Again, it's an Assassin's Creed game, and I'm less hot on those, so you're much more into that series.
I mean, I've played one and I loved it, but
yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of open world games I want to play that aren't Assassin's Creed now that I have a PS4. But it does interest me. Like, I do want to jump back into Assassin's Creed at some point. It's just a matter of when, really. This Odyssey's looking fantastic so far. I mean, a lot of the games we've mentioned on this list so far are very, very, very long games.
Yes. Like, and Odyssey's going to be at least 70 hours,
right,
probably.
Exactly. And so I don't think either of us are going to get it anytime soon, but I think it's one to watch where we're both keen to jump back into Assassin's Creed at some point. It's just...
I mean, I'm much more interested after Origins, because Origins seemed like a game that was playable. Like, Dan Reichert liked Origins, so I feel like I'm very much on a vibe with him when it comes to those games, because he was always like, these controls like shit, I hate this feels like garbage, and I feel the exact same way as him about those games.
Having played some games that aren't Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, I kind of agree. Like, there are definitely lots of open world games that handle and control a lot better. So yeah, it's one to watch, and I guess doesn't make our list this time.
No. Then we have Super Mario Party, which is Nintendo's big first party game for October, I guess it is. I wish this had online. I wish this video game had real online. Real online, Valley, not fake.
It's got a few mini games online, is how I understand it.
Yeah.
If this game had a really great 2-player mode, I'd be glad to pick it up and play it with Caroline. But I need to wait and see if that's the case. As you say, it's not got full online functionality, so immediately is a bit of a kick in the gut for both of us, I guess. And as a big first party game to fill out the rest of the year, it was this was like the biggest surprise from Nintendo at E3, and
which is kind of sad, honestly.
We've already mentioned is a bit sad. So it's not gonna make this top 10, unfortunately.
Definitely not. Man, I wish though that like we still lived in an era where we could get 4 people easily around a TV and play Mario Party.
Right.
Because those were some of my favorite things we did when we were younger.
Nintendo should just accept that we can't do that as easily as we used to, and we probably could just about if we had online. So
definitely,
give it to us,
please. That's a shame. Then we have Starlink, which I think is only on this list because Star Fox is in it, and that's made us more interested in this game.
Takes more
because
than
otherwise
just Star
it's
Fox
like
to make me
another
buy a game, I'm afraid.
Toys to Life weird thing that I'm not that down with.
Yeah, it's a thing. I'm interested to see what people think of Star Fox being in it, but let's.
As a video game, I'm definitely not very interested in Starlink.
Yeah.
Overall.
I mean,
I
don't know. Let's see when Star Fox properly comes back on Switch in whatever form that is. If it's Star Fox Grand Prix or something different, we'll see. So,
Soul Calibur 6. It's been so long since I've played a really good Soul Calibur, Bally. I think Soul Calibur 2 is one of my favorite games. Classic games, I guess you could call it now.
We had a lot of fun with that game. It's great.
Yeah, love Soul Calibur 2, Weapon Master mode, so amazing. And 6 looks really good. Like, just visually, it has a pop to it. I like that they're doing these character trailer reveals. Talim just got announced. I'm like, yes, bring back Talim. She's the best. Fucking Geralt of Rivia is in this game. He looks amazing. And now that I love The Witcher so much, that's just... Because I think the guest characters have not been great the last couple. Assassin's Creed's Ezio was in, I think.
Ezio? And then before that was Vader and Yoda, is that right?
Maybe, yeah. And then there was, I think also Vader and Yoda had, what's his name, Starkiller from Force Unleashed. That made-up character who was like Vader's apprentice or whatever, which I don't think is canon anymore.
Are you sure he's not canon anymore? Yeah.
Yeah.
He might have been written out, but that's
probably
a cool character.
Yeah, Yoda was funny in Soul Calibur 4 because no one could fucking hit him because he was so small. He was like a broken-ass character. The hilarious thing about Soul Calibur 4 is that I bought the PS3 version, which has Vader on it, because they did, like, 360 got Yoda and PS3 got Vader. And I spent about maybe £3.50 on the disc from a second-hand shop. And then I downloaded the Yoda DLC for more than the game cost. It was like £3.70 or something to buy Yoda. So I spent that money on getting Yoda in Soul Calibur 4.
Does Soul Calibur ever get into Evo?
Yes, it does. Yeah, I think it has in the past. And this will probably be a strong contender as well to get into it. Cool. So I'd be interested to watch that. And I want to play a good Soul Calibur game again, man.
Is this day one for you?
I'll see. Like, for me, fighting games are one of those things that I don't jump in on because it's a lot of practicing and getting good at something that I just don't have the time or effort to do outside of Smash Brothers, which is kind of a different ball game. So it's more because I like the old game and I hope that there's a good single player to it, and I like those characters. Like, I have a connection to those characters. It's like when, people talk about these Tekken characters and all the Street Fighter stuff, and I just have zero connection to any of those people. Whereas with Soul Calibur, because I've grown up with it, I know Sophitia, and I know Cassandra, and I know Mitsurugi, and I know these characters, and, their stories, and Cervantes is Ivy's dad, and all this weird stuff that they did in the Soul Calibur lore.
Yeah.
So, I feel a connection to it, so that's why I'm more in on it.
It's Keelik in it.
Yes, Keelik is, and you motherfucker, good. I know you're gonna. That'd be awful.
Stand back and poke.
It's literally all you did the whole goddamn time. Yeah.
So shall we leave it out the top 10 for now, or?
Let's keep it on for the moment.
Keep it on for the moment.
If we need to. Then we have the game that's probably going to sell the most bajillion copies this year. It's Red Dead Redemption 2. It's a video game that I'm interested in because The only Rockstar game that I've actually finished and completed is Red Dead Redemption. I've played so much GTA over the years. I owned GTA 4 on PS3, played a bunch of it at friends' houses and stuff when I was younger on, PS2. Never finished a Rockstar game. Red Dead Redemption is the only one I have finished. And I think that's mainly on the strength of the storytelling. It's just a very well-written game. It is a more interesting setting for me. I like the Wild West quite a bit. And I think it's just... it's a very cool-looking series. I like it.
Well, I have beaten a Rockstar game because I beat Smuggler's Run back in the day.
LOL!
So
good one.
there you go. I'm very keen on this game. This is sort of like, I own the PS4 now. I'm going to get one of the hottest PS4 games of the year because I can. And
it's a zeitgeist game is how I feel about it. It's like when everyone was playing God of War at the start of this year. It feels like you should be in on the conversation.
Oh, it's great when you're playing the game that everyone's talking about. And I mean, I thought I'd feel that more with Octopath, but it sounds like most podcasts I listen to, they've played the first 12 hours and then either have stopped playing or just aren't talking about it anymore. And I'm a bit like,
definitely.
Oh, maybe they don't like it, or it's always going to get a much more narrow following just because it's quite
it's a niche game. It's not a big audience game.
So hopefully it gets more chatter come the end of the year, although it probably won't. But we'll see. Anyway, that's rant over. I've never played Red Dead, obviously, but I like the look of it. I want to try open world games. I believe that we don't know a hell of a lot about this game, actually. And
there's only been like 3 trailers, and we've not even seen gameplay yet. So yes,
and some podcasts, I think it was Giant Bomb, they were just sort of saying, we really don't know what this game is, and it's highly likely that they're really going to go down the sort of GTA online multiplayer route, and that does worry me because I just want a really cool single player interesting story.
Well, I don't know, if you've watched the 3 trailers, then it shows that it's clearly going to be very narrative driven, so there will be a full story, but like I feel like in terms of expanding the game down the line, it's just going to be all into online most likely.
And that's fine for those people, but I guess
definitely
the 2 of us were just going to play that main story. I might do a bit more exploring and things.
I think I'll probably do that as well with this game. When I played the first game, it was...
I might be neck deep in Spider-Man by this point, so I need to like step back.
This is coming at the end of October, so it's a full basically 2 months after Spider-Man comes out.
To web sling, so
the first Red Dead I basically played as a 15-hour game where I just mainlined the story, and I didn't do a lot of the side stuff, but I'll probably do a bit more of that stuff now, just because when it comes to a game just coming out, I feel more inclined to do things like that and kind of dig in a bit more. So
definitely
I think it stays
in
on the
top
list.
10. I think I'm day one for this game. This is my October game personally, although it is quite late in October. So
basically November at that point. Then we have Nintendo's big game that's probably going to sell the most. It's Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. And it's off the list. Okay, moving on. Seriously, though, I really feel bad that this is the game that they're putting out, but also for their bottom line, they're going to make a lot of money on this. It's not for us, it's not for people who listen to podcasts like this. It's not for a mainstream. It is for a mainstream audience. It's for people who played Pokemon Go and liked it and own a Switch maybe because they picked it up for Zelda or Mario. It's a big mass market game that seems very, very dumbed down in a way that's almost a little bit insulting, I will say, in terms of the way that it's
because it's on Switch. This isn't on mobile anymore. This is a Switch game, and that's a bit like ugh. But I've said before. I plan on. I'm going to attempt to play Pokemon Sun this year. I've been meaning to.
What a dream that is, Bally. We'll see.
Depending on how hot I am on that, catch me up in 2019 when apparently the real deal's coming. So then
I don't know. Maybe I'll be even interested in that if they do anything different.
Yeah. So let's take a rain check to 2019 on this one.
Yeah. We've got Hitman 2, which is the sequel to the amazing Hitman that came out 2016, I think it was, which I never played, but I experienced through Giant Bomb videos, as a lot of these games, and God, that game is so fucking hilarious and dumb, and is just a weird sandbox where so many weird things can happen, and I think I'm more interested in watching this game than actually playing it myself.
Do you think you might just end up watching it again rather than picking it up?
Probably, but I don't know. I feel like I should play a Hitman game just because I've admired
so
that
much
series
fun
for a
from
long
it.
time, and there used to be this YouTuber called the Aussie Gamer who did really good Hitman videos back in the day that I watched, and I really enjoyed those. But
When did Hitman 1 come out?
oh god, years ago, ages ago. But like the really good games, like I think Blood Money is the one that is very well regarded, and then some games after that were not very good. They weren't leaning into the good things about Hitman, which is just all the possibilities and like leaving random axes in places and dressing up as people and things like that, which is where that series does its best. But yeah, I don't think it should be on the list. I think it's definitely going to be good, but not going to put it on our personal one. Darksiders 3 we then have, which I was okay on the hot. What? I was not too hot on the original Darksiders. It was a decent game, a good Zelda-like, and what I've seen from 3 isn't amazing, but it seems okay.
You tempted by 2 on the Wii U?
I mean, I already own it on like 5 different I think I own it on PS3, Steam, and Wii U, just because.
I plan on playing. Well, I'm going to finish Metroid Prime 3, but then I'm going to maybe play Darksiders 2 and then pack up my Wii U because I'll have beaten my entire Wii U backlog.
You'll be finished everything on Wii U.
I will have finished everything on Wii U until
Wow.
that third Shovel Knight game comes out.
Right, that's the only thing you have to still keep it out for.
I plan this year on playing those 3 games ideally, and then wrapping up the Wii U, and hopefully, now use the PS4 as a Netflix box. So
yeah,
sorted.
pretty much. Oh, sorted.
So yeah, I don't have any interest in this until I at least give 2 a go.
Yeah,
and I've got that sitting and waiting. So
okay,
yeah.
well, we'll leave it off the list then. Take it off. Then it needs no introduction. It's Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Ugh.
It's probably going to be the game of forever. It's going to be the Smash Brothers that I don't stop playing.
You know, the word ultimate is often overused.
Oh yeah,
I feel like they've hit the nail on the head with this one. Like,
they definitely
such
have.
a good word to use for including every character ever in Smash Brothers. That is a stroke of genius. I was very impressed by this game at E3. I highly look forward to it. We are going to spend most of December playing this game, getting online, getting our mains out. You know, bit of the Star Fox. What's it called? Star Fox No.
Fox No Items.
Fox
Final
No
Destination.
Items. There we go. Final Destination. That's us.
Gotta learn to meme better, Bally. Know your memes.
I struggle.
I know. But yeah, the thing is that we still don't know a lot about this game. We know a lot of stuff about the characters, but we don't know about the modes. Don't know if there's going to be any single player thing at all.
We're gonna find out about a lot of sexy modes, I think, and I think there's a couple of. I reckon there's at least 2 characters to come.
Yeah, there's definitely some more characters to be revealed. I hope that they have a DLC plan for it. The thing that feels weird is that because it's called Ultimate, putting DLC at the end of it just feels a little bit
Ultimate
disingenuous. DLC, yeah. You know, it's like, here's the definitive edition, now let's sell you more. I think that's why with Mario Kart there hasn't been more Mario Kart, because it's like, hey, it's Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. This is the deluxe version. You don't need anything else. So like adding DLC to it feels like, well, I guess it's not deluxe anymore, is it? Because
so I don't have a very good knowledge of fighting games, but are there any rosters more than 65 fighters in any fighting game?
Probably, but they're probably very kind of thin and not great rosters, you know. Whereas I think with Smash Brothers, every character, aside from obviously the Echo ones and like the kind of clone ones, are so unique and so well thought out and just amazing homages to the series that they come from. So that's why I think Smash Brothers is in particular so special, just because there's so much care that goes into literally every thought and move in each of those characters. So yeah, it's on the list, obviously. And then we have a few games that don't have release dates yet, but I think will probably be out this year, maybe next year. Wargroove, Ali, what's happened to Wargroove? Where's that gone?
I don't know. I follow the Twitter account. I'm hyped for it. I want to get it when it comes out. But yeah, I just want to play that game. My hype hasn't really changed on it in any way, because we've not seen any more of it. So yeah, I just want to wait till it comes out. I'll probably get it day 1 when it comes out, and I'll probably love it. But it doesn't have to make this top 10. I am excited for that game. But yeah, there's every chance it won't even come out this year. So yeah. That's Wargroove.
Okay. Then there is Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, which is the game that I kickstarted ages ago. And we played. I played Curse of the Moon, which was like the 8-bit game that came out, and that was actually really damn good. I was like, holy shit! This Inti Creates game that was just a spin-off of this main one, which probably is going to end up like looking better than the normal game in the end, just because it's pixel art versus the pseudo 2.5D thing that they have going on.
Is it trying to copy that? Symphony of the Night PS1 one.
Yes, yeah. So I'm still interested and excited for Ritual of the Night, but I have to say the art style is not what I wanted it to end up being. It does feel a little blocky and unorganic. I don't know. It doesn't feel very smooth or high production, which, you know, Kickstarters can go that way in some senses. But it seems like it plays very well, and I'm interested in obviously playing it. I'm going to be getting it because I've already backed it. So, so it'll probably come out sometime this year, and I will play Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, and hopefully it's very good. Positive impressions seem to be coming out of what people have played. So
on the list, off the list,
I think. I don't think I'm like super jazzed about it. Okay. So I'll put it off. And then Luigi's Mansion on 3DS is coming out at some point.
Sorry, I've got the Messenger on the list here. Did we want that on the list?
Yeah, I was going to talk about that after this.
Okay.
But yeah, the Messenger is a game that they showed off in a Nintendo Direct and looked very, very cool. Brian Altano, I think, said it was like this year's Shovel Knight in terms of it's kind of Ninja Gaiden, but they have a lot of cool mechanics going on where you can shift between periods of time. I think it is. It's kind of like Guacamelee, like shifting between worlds,
right.
And it looks very, very good. Apparently, it plays extremely well as well. It's a game that I'm very interested in playing on Switch when it comes out. But again, I'm not sure it makes it onto this list.
Sure.
So yeah, we can leave it off. And then Luigi's Mansion on 3DS, which is cool. I haven't played the original Luigi's Mansion. I know you owned it for a little while.
I owned it. Didn't play enough of it. Traded it in. Shouldn't have. I want to play it.
Yeah, regrets. Ultimate regrets.
Ultimate regrets.
Definitely.
So, yeah. Don't think it makes the list, but it'll be good to play when it comes.
No. Okay, so how many games do we have on this list?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Wow, there you go. We've made 10 already.
We did it.
Without even thinking about it.
That was easy.
Is there anything that you think should be taken off and put on in favour of something else? I think the only one for me is maybe Shadow of the Tomb Raider. And I don't know what I would take off for Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
Maybe Soul Calibur 6, but I mean, you like that, so Spyro Trilogy?
Yeah, Spyro is the one I'm thinking.
You're thinking Spyro. I'm happy to remove that. We'll stick on Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
No, actually, you know what? No, I'm more excited to play Spyro.
Okay.
Yeah.
So shall we run through the top 10 quickly?
Yeah.
They are Overcooked 2, Guacamelee 2, Dragon Quest 11, Spider-Man, Spyro Trilogy, Xenoblade 2 Torna DLC, Valkyria Chronicles 4, Soul Calibur 6, Red Dead Redemption 2, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Okay. I mean, number one is Smash Brothers, clearly.
I think number one is Smash Brothers. Yes. I would go for that.
It's not really a debate.
Let's go for that. Number one, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Then it gets more difficult because I think
tricky.
we both have our hearts in different places.
My heart for number two, personally, is Spider-Man.
Yeah, I thought you would say that.
But I appreciate you're not as hot on that, so you're looking to reach out for something else. We could maybe agree on Red Dead 2 together.
Maybe. I don't know. The thing is, Red Dead 2 is a game that I'm excited to play, but I don't have the same fervor for it that I think a lot of people do. A lot of people consider...
I mean, I'm kind of agreed with you. I'm just on the hype train with everyone else. Never played it before, but appreciate it's probably going to be fun and want to do that. So
the original Red Dead Redemption is a really good video game. I think people who call it the best game of last generation are actually fucking crazy people. It's nowhere. I mean, it's probably close to that, but I really don't understand why people think that. Especially when you have something like Super Mario Galaxy, which is like a genre-defining game of last generation.
I think people were a bit of the kind of suckers for open world games in that generation as well. You could maybe argue it was the kind of
to some degree.
They were hyped then.
And I think Red Dead has been overtaken since then by other open world games like Witcher and Zelda. Personally, I feel better about those games than I do Red Dead. But I can appreciate that for me it's more about, I like fantasy open worlds. I prefer that setting. I'm not as hot on Rockstar's approach in terms of the style of game, but
I'd be more keen to go with Red Dead or Spider-Man, but we could reach out and agree maybe together on Guacamelee 2 for number 2.
I was gonna bring that up because Guacamelee 2 is this little like sly dog in the corner who's like, hey, don't forget about me, guys, I'm over here. I feel we both together, the two of us feel probably stronger about Guacamelee 2.
I think we'll both play that game some point this year.
Yes.
We'll both love it, and then we'll both be outraged that it's not involved in more Game of the Year discussions. Probably,
we'll have
to push it right up our own Game of the Year.
I predict that I will like Guacamelee 2 more than either Spider-Man or Red Dead. Honestly,
bold.
But you know, I'm also the person who thinks Celeste is better than God of War, so that's just where my personality lies.
Don't give away your cards now. We're only halfway through the year.
Okay, but, I'm sorry. Well, you know,
I think I'll enjoy Spider-Man more, but I think it's a good joint number 2 to go with Guacamelee 2.
Okay, we'll put that at 2.
Right.
Then we have a third game that we have to put in there.
Number 3 is tricky. It's tricky. It's going to be a lot of compromise on this one, I feel.
Yeah.
I'm most comfortable, like I said, with Red Dead 2 and Spider-Man for this number 3 slot.
Yeah. Which one?
But it might end up being a lukewarm number 3 from both of us, rather than like a
I feel like if we go Red Dead 2, it's not going to feel good. If we go Spider-Man...
We're not Red Dead people, really. We're just people interested in that game, so... I mean, I just think that we had such a blast with Spider-Man 2 that it's nostalgic and new and awesome at the same time. But you can make that argument for Soul Calibur 6 maybe. But
man, that fucking weekend where we were like at your house playing it for 7 hours, and then we moved after the sleepover to my house and played it for 7 hours. I still
can't beat Dr. Octavius at the end of that time.
I know. We basically played the whole fucking game.
I should go back and try and do that before this game comes out. Should we go Spider-Man number 3 then?
Yeah, I think I can agree with that.
There we go.
And I think after I've played Spider-Man, I think I'm probably going to be a lot more positive on it.
I think you're burned on the hype, and now you just need the game.
I think it's also because I just haven't watched a lot of the game, and for me personally, I think a lot of people were wowed by the E3 presentation at Sony's show, and it just didn't feel.
Once you're wowed by the web slinging once, it's hard to get wowed again, I guess.
Yeah,
it's not
I felt like the section they showed at Sony's E3 was very not scripted, but it felt like it was scripted.
Yeah,
you know, a lot of like falling through,
bit
crashing things and stuff like that, and it looked cool, but it wasn't. It didn't feel new and different to me in a way that I maybe wanted. But yeah, okay. Well, there you go.
Top 3.
Those are our top
Super
3.
Smash Bros. Ultimate. Number 2, Guacamelee 2, and number 3, Spider-Man.
Okay.
So there we go.
Well, there you go.
Top 3 the TNL most anticipated games of 2018.
Actual game of the year, Valkyria Chronicles 4. You heard it here first. You'll see me on the other side.
And we're going to try and play a ton of these before the end of the year, and then
definitely
we'll
very
get a
excited
game
to
of
do
the year
that.
discussion on the go, I guess.
Yeah, there's lots of good stuff, and I hope to play as much of it as possible, but we shall see. So yeah, there we go. That is our kind of preview, I guess, of what is coming out for the rest of the year. Hope you guys enjoyed listening, and that's going to basically close out the show for us. Bally, we need to thank people for supporting us to make this show possible.
Thank you to all our Patreons for supporting us on Patreon. We really appreciate it. We've got another episode of TNL Ranks coming out next week. We will have that available a week today. And of course, thank you to our 2 top tier $10 tier patrons. They are, of course, Atari, Alex, and my girlfriend Caroline. Thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate it. If you'd like to support us, head on over to patreon.com/ThisNintendoLife, and you'll find us right there with some juicy podcasts on offer.
Yes, we have a lot of bonus things there now if you are interested. And thank you to everyone who supports us. It is amazing and tremendous, and we are always in your debt. So thank you for that. You can find this show in various places. We are all over the internet. We're on iTunes, we're on Stitcher. You can download us and give us reviews and ratings on different places, apparently, Bally. That's what you said before. I don't know if I believe you. I thought iTunes is the one and only.
Yeah, you can rate us on places that aren't iTunes, and then it appears on these other websites like Podbean and other things that I can't remember the names of.
Podbean, I've heard of this website, this Podbean. Could it be a thing?
So,
I don't know.
Wherever you get your podcast, just say, hey, I'm sure other people listen to podcasts on this website I use, so yeah, I'll write a review for This Nintendo Life and more people will listen to us, and we'd really appreciate that.
Yeah, that would be really, really great. We also should plug ourselves on Twitter. So you can find the podcast at TNL Podcast. That is where you can go to find a link to our Discord, to our YouTube channel. We also link to that stuff in the description of the podcast, so you can get there if you want to as well. And you can find me at Lord NBZ. Where can they find you, Bally?
I'm at Ballyman91. That's BALLYMAN 91. I've been posting nostalgic pictures as I've been clearing out my bedroom from years and years ago with all this box art for absolute classics like
quality David Beckham Game Boy Advance game,
Soccer on Game Boy Advance, which I completely forgot I ever owned and can't say anything about that game because I can't remember it.
No.
Yeah, I've been throwing out a lot of old video game boxes, so.
No, you can't do that.
I've gotten rid of them, MBZ. I had
History.
to.
There are historians out there. You could put that David Beckham box in a museum, for God's sake, Bally. Jesus, what are you thinking?
True.
Crazy.
But so follow me on there for all that crazy stuff. And of course, where I've been posting pictures of my elite Pokemon teams that I wrote down when I was about 11 or 12 years old. And I believe they were for Pokemon Stadium 2, but they might have been for Pokemon Gold and Silver. I can't remember, but one of those two, anyway.
Absolutely. Great. Well, yeah, you can find us there, tweet at us, do things like that. And you can also send us emails and things, which we always need more. So send those to our email address. Bally, you can tell them what it is.
ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. That's ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. We've been getting some good ones in recently, so we'd really appreciate a few more. It's great to hear from all our listeners.
Absolutely. So keep sending those. We always like hearing from new people. If you've just started listening to the podcast, that would be fantastic. You can send those in. And yeah, I think that is pretty much it. We'll be back in a couple of weeks' time talking about some more video games and things related to them. But until then, thank you all very much for listening, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye, folks. The musical interludes used on today's show were Olberic's theme and Discord, both from Octopath Traveller. Copyright Square Enix 2018.